Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical themes in Arsenal's 3-0 win at Bournemouth. So in today's video, first we're going to analyze Bournemouth's shape, then we'll shift to Arsenal's attacking structure, and lastly we'll focus specifically on Saka and Odegaard's movement on the right-hand side. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we have Bournemouth in a 3-5-2 and Arsenal starting in a 4-3-3 that was unchanged. So first, when we do break down this game, a lot of it was down to Arsenal dominating that opening half, and that's predominantly where they did win the game, and it was how they were able to bypass Bournemouth's 3-5-2 that dropped into a 5-3-2 out of possession. The manner in which they looked to do that was they wanted the two strikers to be around Thomas Partey so he couldn't get on the ball, and then in that midfield zone they were able to have Tavernier and Pearson dealing with Xhaka and Odegaard. Lerma could sit in that midfield role, and if Gabriel Jesus dropped off deeper he could look to pick him up, or Lerma could serve as an outlet for cover when you had the shuttlers pushing out to the fullbacks. Because if Zinchenko was on the ball and you had Billing and Moore stepping towards the center backs, or one of them stepping to the center backs and sitting on Thomas Partey, then the responsibility of closing the fullbacks would be down to the shuttlers. So Tavernier would step out towards Zinchenko and Lerma would shift over to deal with Xhaka, and vice versa on the opposite flank, with Pearson stepping towards White and then Lerma stepping towards Odegaard. The problem with Bournemouth's overall shape was that when they were looking to step forward, they weren't doing it as a collective unit. So there was a lot of space at times for White to push forward because Pearson couldn't step out towards him. And then there were occasions where Zinchenko drifted laterally into the central midfield zone, similar to Kyle Walker last weekend, to make it more of a 3-2-5. And then that would create a passing lane for Martinelli to get on the ball. But even when you look at that midfield zone, if Zinchenko tucks into that area, he could drop ahead of the center forwards, and then they have a 4v2 advantage. And then even if one of the shuttlers push forward, they still have a numerical advantage in that zone, and they were able to bypass that front two press. However, in terms of Arsenal's overall shape and their attacking structure, they shifted between a 3-2-5 and a 4-1-5 depending on the side they attacked from. Like I said, with Zinchenko tucking into that midfield zone, you'd have Xhaka pushing forward in towards the final third and then looking to occupy Mepham. And then from there, Arsenal could play the ball out to Martinelli with the free passing lane near the touch line to take on Smith. There were occasions where Martinelli did tuck in centrally to occupy Mepham, and then Xhaka would drop off in towards that zone, or at times Zinchenko was pushing forward, and that was the rare occasion we'd see Xhaka dropping off a bit deeper to get on the ball in the half space. If Arsenal were 4-1-5 and attacking down the left-hand side, it'd be Zinchenko in a deeper position that was a bit more narrow. Martinelli was looking to pick up the ball on the left touch line, and then Xhaka was pushing forward beyond the midfield bank to occupy two center backs. However, when Arsenal were more of a 4-1-5, that was when they were looking to attack from the right-hand side. Arsenal supporters have raised their concerns about Bukayo Saka's limited impact, and a lot of that has been down to Arsenal's attacking structure, in which Odegaard would drop off into space near the touchline, and that would see him receiving the ball in that zone and blocking off a passing lane in towards Saka, who would often drift laterally to create space for Odegaard to receive that ball freely. Here we did see him in the early stages looking to receive the ball on the outside of Pearson, but for majority of that opening half, he was in that gap between Lerma and Pearson, and then Saka was now able to receive the ball from the center backs, Thomas Partey or White, to go 1v1 against the wing back. And if that wasn't the case, Odegaard was pushing forward to occupy the two center backs, and when White would push forward, he'd pull out Pearson, and then from there you could slide the ball out to Saka to run in a 1v1 isolated situation. The other scenario would have Odegaard dropping in between Kelly and the wingback, and from there would drive him a bit more narrow, and there were times where you ended up seeing White making overlapping runs beyond Saka, which allows him a bit more space to either combine with the fullback or look to cut central to get a shot off or deliver a cross into the penalty area. Nonetheless, there were times where Odegaard did drop off in towards the touchline zone, and that's where you saw Saka play in that role as well. But whenever Saka and Odegaard looked to combine in those situations, it often resulted in a poor final touch in and around the Bournemouth penalty area, or simply an unsuccessful pass that would set the teammate free in behind. Arsenal equally tried to get Bukayo Saka in behind to run beyond the wingback. In those situations, you had Odegaard occupying the center back and dropping off deeper to pull out Kelly, and then from there, White could step on towards the ball and he could clip it over Pearson if he got tight into that right channel and then have Saka break off the wing back. The other alternative would be to have Odegaard dropping off deeper and pulling out Kelly, or pulling out Pearson and then looking to lob the ball over the wing back into the path of Saka breaking in behind. And then the same would be applicable if Saka or Odegaard were occupying that space between the wing back and the center back. They'd be looking to make underlapping runs into space behind the wing back to receive the ball. But on the occasions where they did get into those zones, the final pass was simply unsuccessful and Arsenal were unable to create from those positions. However, when you break down how Arsenal were able to score their goals, yes, the first one was down to some individual brilliance from Gabriel Jesus, who was able to brush off the center back and then evade a few challenges to play a reverse ball into the path of Martinelli. But what should be noted here is the movement of Odegaard from that deeper position. He's following the play and making a deep run from that midfield zone and no one's tracking his movement. And from there, he's running beyond Lerma and Pearson in towards the penalty area as Saka's in between Kelly and the wing back. So he takes them out of the game, and when Martinelli's shot is saved, Odegaard's willingness to stick with the play and make that deep unmarked run in towards that penalty area was rewarded. But as stated previously, Arsenal's intent to get Saka on the ball was down to Odegaard's positioning in towards central areas beyond the midfield bank or in the inside right position to allow the ball to go out to Saka. And in the build-up to Arsenal's second goal, you see that firsthand. In this example, you see White on the ball and he's looking to slide it across a narrow Pearson into the path of Saka. When Saka receives the ball, you can see that he does pull out the wing back and Odegaard's in an advanced central position. Saka does well to get an advantage by pushing the ball to the outside of the defender, and from there he's able to evade the press, and now you have Odegaard who is occupying the center back looking to make a run in towards the right channel. As that play develops, Saka carries the ball in towards the final third, and while he can slide the ball out to Odegaard, he ends up getting clipped for a booking. In the build-up to Arsenal's second goal, you see that it's Ben White looking to break forward into the Bournemouth half with Odegaard in the central position and Saka in the right channel. As that play develops, he carries the ball into the final third, and you can see that he can now slide the ball out to Saka, who's unmarked in that zone because Odegaard's occupying a center back and Lerma. As Saka receives the ball, you can see that White is now looking to continue his run forward in towards the final third to create a 2v1. From there, you see that he's making the overlapping run and there's no cover pressure tight enough. So from there, Saka is able to play the ball into right half space across the wing back for White to get into that zone. As Lerma shifts across, White can now pull a first time ball back into the path of Odegaard, but it ends up bypassing Odegaard and falling into the path of Jesus. But from there, while he should get a shot on goal, his touch is heavy, but from there it falls into the path of Odegaard, who's sharp and prepared, and he ends up firing a first time effort beyond the keeper. In terms of the rare occasions when Arsenal had to step forward to apply pressure, they did a fairly good job of closing down the Bournemouth backline by having the front three stepping towards the center backs, Zinchenko and White pushing towards the wing backs, and then Odegaard and Xhaka were tasked with stepping into the path of Lerma and Pearson. However, there were times where Bournemouth were able to bypass that Arsenal press, and that was down to Xhaka not being able to step towards Lerma due to the positioning of Tavernier dropping off in towards that central midfield zone, and with Zinchenko not being able to step forward if he was waiting to push towards the wing back. That's where you'd see Xhaka dropping off deeper and looking to block off the passing lane in towards him to ensure that he couldn't get the ball in pockets of space. While Arsenal didn't create many chances in that opening half, they were dominant and they forced Bournemouth to shift their system into more of a 4-2-3-1 that at times did look like a 4-1-2-3, but that ultimately benefited Arsenal in terms of the press because now they could go 3v3 in that midfield zone, and within the opening 10 minutes they were able to kill off the game again down that right hand side. Before we even break down the goal, you could see that it's Saka who dropped off deeper, tracking his runner to prevent a 2v1, and he was able to win the ball, and then that's when Arsenal were able to break through Thomas Partey's pass into Odegaard, and from there they were able to get Saka to break down that right channel where he dragged two markers towards him, and rather than looking to push forward by himself, he was able to win the free kick that ultimately led to Arsenal's third goal that killed off the game. In the build-up to Arsenal's third goal, you can see that the quick free kick creates a 2v1 and it allows Martinelli to get in a 1v1 with Cook. From there, you have Martinelli now in that 1v1 position to take on the defender, and that's what you want. But focus at the back post where now Gabriel and Xhaka are making runs towards the penalty area. As that play develops, you can see that Martinelli is able to get the better of Cook by breaking towards the byline. And with Gabriel pushing towards the box to occupy Smith, you now have Xhaka free breaking towards the back post. As that cross is delivered towards the back post, there's 3 Bournemouth defenders in the 6-yard area, and they have to win that challenge. However, as you can see, they don't, and the ball falls into the path of Xhaka. And as you see that Bournemouth penalty area, they have several defenders retreating towards the 6-yard box, and that results in Xhaka playing the ball back to Saliba at the edge of the box, and from this position, he curls a superb effort in towards the top corner. So as you can see, this was a relatively comfortable display from an Arsenal side in which they exploited the wide areas around Bournemouth's narrow midfield and their lack of an energetic and organized press to claim all 3 points in less than an hour.